guys, welcome back to our channel as we continue a journey through the history of the British Empire. In our previous video, we explored expeditions, colonization, the grim realities of the slave trade, and Britain and France's global dominance. In this video, we will be digging into Britain's transformative phase in the Industrial Revolution, the Raj in India, World War I, World War II, and how finally the mighty British Empire came to an end. Let's start off with Britain's forge of power and progress, the Industrial Revolution. The 18th and 19th centuries witnessed a transformative period for Britain. This chapter delves into how a series of innovations and inventions not only propelled Britain to the forefront of global industry, but also fundamentally reshaped its social fabric and its role in the burgeoning British Empire. From workshops to wonderlands, factories, not amusement parks, the traditional image of a blacksmith hammering away in a small workshop gave way to the behemoth of the factory. These large-scale production centers, powered by steam engines, revolutionized manufacturing by creating mechanization and the assembly line. Machines replaced many manual tasks, increasing efficiency and output dramatically. Spinning jennies and power looms transformed textile production, while steam engines revolutionized transportation with steam locomotives and steamships. The assembly lines, pioneered in the production of firearms, further streamlined production by breaking down complex tasks into simpler steps performed by different workers, indicating the Industrial Revolution wasn't just about machines, but it had a profound impact on British society. People flocked to cities seeking factory jobs, leading to a rapid rise in urban populations. Cities like Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool became industrial hubs, often characterized by overcrowding and poor living conditions for the working class. Manchester Industrial Revolution, in which the rise of the working class emerged as factory workers faced long hours, harsh working conditions, and low wages. This fueled labor unrest and the rise of trade unions that fought for better working conditions and worker rights. The factory system also created opportunities for entrepreneurs, inventors, and factory owners, leading to the rise of a new and wealthy middle class. How did Britain fuel its imperial ambitions? Simple, manufactured goods and military power. British factories churned out textiles, machinery, and other manufactured goods that were exported around the world. Colonies became captive markets for these goods, further enriching Britain. On the contrary, industrial advancement strengthened Britain's military capabilities. Steam-powered warships and efficient production of weapons solidified Britain's dominance at sea, a crucial factor in maintaining its vast empire. The Raj in India. India, with its vast riches and diverse cultures, was the crown jewel of the British Empire. From trade to rule, the seeds of British dominance in India were sown by the East India Company, a powerful trading entity. Initially focused on trade, the company gradually amassed political and military power, particularly as the Mughal Empire weakened in the 18th century, which then the Battle of Passy took place. This pivotal victory over a much larger Mughal army established the company's military might and its growing influence in Indian politics. That is how the expansion of the Raj began. Throughout the 19th century, the company expanded its control over vast swaths of India, often through a combination of military conquest, political maneuvering, and exploiting rivalries between Indian kingdoms. This period is often referred to as the British Raj. The Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Despite its apparent dominance, British rule wasn't without resistance. The Sepoy Mutiny of 1857 stands as a stark reminder of the tensions simmering beneath the surface. Sepoys were Indian soldiers employed by the East India Company. Anger over social and religious reforms imposed by the British, coupled with concerns about grease cartridges, seen as religiously impure, triggered a large-scale rebellion. The only leader to emerge on the rebel side was Nana Sahib, the adopted son of the deposed Maratha chief. He assumed command of the sepoys in July 1857, but was defeated in battle and driven into Nepal. The sepoy mutiny was a brutal and bloody affair, with atrocities committed on both sides. While the British ultimately crushed the rebellion, it served as a wake-up call, forcing a reassessment of British policies in India. Critics argue that the British exploited India's resources, prioritizing raw material extraction and cash crops like cotton over food security for the Indian population. This, they argue, led to famines and widespread poverty. Supporters point to the development of railways, irrigation systems, and a unified administration as positive contributions of British rule. These advancements, they argue, laid the groundwork for a modern India. The British Raj's impact on Indian culture was complex. While there was some modernization, there was also a sense of cultural imposition and a decline in traditional Indian industries and crafts. The British Raj in India remains a subject of intense debate. Understanding both the achievements and the controversies of this period is crucial for comprehending the complex relationship between Britain and India, a relationship that continues to shape the world today. World War I, a test by fire 1914 to 1918. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 plunged the world into a devastating conflict. For the British Empire, this wasn't just a European war. It was a global one, testing the empire's strength and unity to its core. Britain's entry into the war wasn't solely driven by self-interest. A complex web of alliances played a crucial role. Britain was part of the Triple Entente, an alliance with France and Russia. When Germany declared war on Russia, Britain, honoring its commitment, declared war on Germany in August 1914. The war quickly became a global conflict. Germany's colonies were scattered across Africa and Asia, prompting Britain to declare war on them as well. The vast British Empire became a crucial battleground. The war placed an immense strain on the human and material resources of the British Empire. Millions of troops were needed to fight on multiple fronts in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Britain relied heavily on volunteers from across the empire, including India, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. British factories churned out weapons and supplies not just for its own troops, but for its allies as well. The empire's industrial capacity became a vital asset in the war effort. The war was incredibly expensive. The British government borrowed heavily to finance the war effort, leading to significant economic strain and inflation. Soldiers from across the empire volunteered or were conscripted to fight for Britain. Their contributions were significant. Over 1.5 million soldiers from India alone served in the war, fighting in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Similarly, significant numbers of soldiers came from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of the empire. Colonies also provided crucial raw materials and supplies, essential for the war effort. The war, however, wasn't without consequences for the empire. Many in the colonies felt they had sacrificed heavily for a war that wasn't theirs. The vast number of casualties from colonial troops contrasted with the lives lost in Britain itself, creating a sense of neglect and resentment. Promises of greater autonomy or self-government made by Britain during the war often went unfulfilled after the war's end. This fueled nationalist movements in many colonies. World War I was a defining moment for the British Empire. It demonstrated the empire's global reach and military might. However, the immense cost of human life and resources, coupled with the sacrifices made by colonial soldiers, ultimately weakened the empire's grip. The stage was being set for the dismantling of an empire that had once spanned the globe. Similarly, a second storm, World War II 1939 to 1945. The scars of World War I hadn't fully healed when the world was plunged into another global conflict, World War II. For the British Empire, this was a fight for survival against the fascist aggression of Nazi Germany and its allies. From appeasement to defiance, Britain's entry into the war. Initially, Britain pursued a policy of appeasement towards Germany, hoping to avoid war. However, after Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939, Britain, led by the newly appointed Prime Minister Winston Churchill, declared war, determined to stand against tyranny. Churchill's unwavering resolve and powerful speech rallied the British people and became a symbol of defiance against Nazi aggression. His leadership on the world stage was crucial in forging alliances and keeping the fight alive. World War II wasn't just a European conflict. It became a global war, and the British Empire played a pivotal role. Millions of men and women from across the empire volunteered or were conscripted to fight. Soldiers from India, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Africa fought in Europe, North Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Factories across the empire churned out vital supplies, from weapons and ammunition to food and clothing, for both British and Allied forces. British colonies provided crucial strategic locations for naval bases and airfields, stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific, allowing for vital supply routes and a coordinated defense effort. The war came at a devastating human cost for the British Empire. Millions mobilized as over 25 million people from across the empire served in the armed forces during World War II. Colonies like India and Malta suffered heavily from bombings and civilian casualties. The war left deep scars across the empire, with countless families mourning lost loved ones. While the fight against fascism was a key motivation, the war also served Britain's strategic interests. However, the sacrifices made by people across the empire during the war ultimately contributed to the rise of independence movements. Towards the demise of the empire, World War II marked a turning point for the British Empire. While the empire's vast resources and manpower were crucial for the Allied victory, the war also exposed its vulnerabilities. The war left Britain heavily in debt, making it difficult to maintain control over its vast global holdings. The war had empowered nationalist movements in many colonies, who demanded independence after contributing significantly to the war effort. The seeds of decolonization, sown during World War I, began to germinate rapidly in the aftermath of World War II. The once mighty British Empire was on the cusp of a dramatic transformation. The sun sets on the empire 1945 present. The post-war era witnessed a dramatic shift in the global order. The once powerful British Empire, stretched thin and burdened by war, began a process of decolonization. Let's finally explore the factors that led to the dismantling of the empire and the rise of independent nations. The cracks begin to show, seeds of discontent. World War II may have been a victory, but it came at a heavy price for the British Empire. Here's how the tide began to turn. Decades of colonial rule had fueled nationalist movements in many colonies. The war, where colonial soldiers played a crucial role, further emboldened these movements. Leaders like Mohandas Gandhi in India and Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana emerged as powerful voices demanding self-rule. The war had left Britain in deep financial debt. Maintaining a vast empire became an increasing economic burden. The emergence of the Cold War reshaped global politics. Britain, aligned with the US against the Soviet Union, sometimes found itself prioritizing maintaining its influence in certain colonies deemed strategically important in the new global struggle. Decolonization wasn't a uniform process. Here's a look at the different approaches Britain took. In some cases, like India in 1947, Britain granted independence after negotiations with nationalist leaders. This process, though complex and sometimes violent, aimed for a peaceful transition. In other instances, particularly in Africa, the decolonization process was more fraught. Britain sometimes resorted to military intervention to suppress independence movements, leading to bloodshed and instability. A legacy of empire, light and shadow. The British Empire's legacy is a complex one, marked by both achievements and failures. A positive impact might be: the British Empire introduced infrastructure, education systems, and administrative structures in many colonies. The spread of the English language also had a lasting impact. On the contrary, the exploitation of resources, the disruption of traditional societies, and the suppression of local cultures are undeniable aspects of colonialism. The arbitrary drawing of borders during decolonization also contributed to ongoing conflicts in some regions. A new world order, a legacy that endures. The dismantling of the British Empire marked the end of an era. In its wake, emerged dozens of independent nations, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the 21st century. The legacy of the empire, both positive and negative, continues to be felt in these former colonies, influencing their economies, political systems, and cultural identities. The British Commonwealth, a voluntary association of independent former British colonies, remains a symbol of this complex past. The story of the British Empire is one of power, conquest, and ultimately, transformation. Understanding its history allows us to appreciate the complexities of colonialism and its lasting impact on the world we live in today. Thanks for watching. This has been the History Guy. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Until next time.